in addition to your leadership work at Fred Hutch, you study blood cancers and you work with families that are facing very, very difficult times. And the whole point of this was we are trying to figure out during this healing service, how do we help our community find hope during these times that, especially now with all of the climate change that's going on, but living in this pandemic, how do we find a hopeful path forward? The first thing that I'd love to know about is when you're dealing with families who are dealing with very, very serious illness, how do you help families find hope in that moment? How do you approach talking with your patients when their future is uncertain?
So thanks, Rabbi. I, of course, have to start by saying that I'm not a spiritual leader. I'm only speaking from my experience as an oncologist. The author, Dr. Jerry Groopman, is a very close friend of mine, and I like what he wrote in his book, The Anatomy of Hope. He said that hope is the elevating feeling we experience when we see in the mind's eye a path to the future. Hope acknowledges the significant obstacles and deep pitfalls along that path. True hope has no room for delusion. I agree entirely with Jerry. In my experience, I found hope to be an enormously valuable commodity. It provides strength, it provides comfort, and it helps me and my patients in the process of making shared medical decisions. But it only does that when hope is tethered to reality. Hoping for an impossible miracle degrades the concept of hope, I think, into sort of a useless fiction. So when I care for patients, we have repeated discussions about what is possible. And for most patients, the spectrum of possibilities is quite wide. I mean, even rare events do happen, albeit rarely. As oncologists, we can provide reasonably accurate data about percent cures or average durations of responses, but we don't do very well in trying to predict what will happen with an individual patient. And so after setting the wide boundaries of what's possible, then we discuss what the patient hopes for within those limits. What are their goals? That's what hope's about. And it may be they're hoping for the greatest likelihood of cure, the least possible toxicities, the ability to travel and be away from physicians like me. And with those hoped for goals in mind, then we discuss the various paths forward. Even when there is no reasonable expectation for cure, patients still have hope. It's hope maybe to survive, to be part of a specific event, hope to be able to stay home symptom-free as long as possible. Towards the end, it may be hope to be able to say goodbye, hope to be remembered in the way that they would want.
That's I love that image of that hope that's not tethered to reality is delusional. That's a spiritual statement. Given your experience clinically with families, is there a way that we can extrapolate that wisdom to how we're living in this pandemic now?
I think so, Rabbi. I really do. And again, I want to be clear, I'm not a virologist, but in my role as a deputy director of the Hutch, I have this great privilege of working with one of the world's really great groups of researchers in the area of virus and vaccine development. In fact, the Hutch is the coordinating center for the 5 largest prospective randomized trials about the vaccine, all of which would be 30,000 individuals each. And those are being coordinated through the Hutch. So wow. We have this terrific group of virologists. But again, getting back to what we can realistically expect. We can't expect to wake up tomorrow and find the virus gone. But I think it's useful to step back for a minute and look at what science has achieved. I said I don't believe in miracles, but I kind of do believe in the miracle of modern science. And just think of what it's achieved. You know, we had the very first report of a small cluster of cases of this virus from Wuhan, China. That was on December 31st, 2019. So right at the beginning of this year, essentially January 1st. 10 days later, the entire genomic sequence of that virus was known and made public.
Wow.
5 days after that, on January 15th, the NIH made the decision to fund the development of a number of vaccines.
Wow.
62 days later, 62 days later from that decision, the very first vaccine was already produced, the purity was shown, and the phase 1 study was started. In fact, it was a woman by the name of Jennifer Haller who rolled up her sleeve right here in Seattle and got the very first shot of the vaccine. That we will almost certainly have the first vaccine available in the first quarter of 2021.
I mean, that just there, you're right. That's the miracle of human ingenuity. Wow.
So it's not today, it's not tomorrow, but it is coming. And so when you talk about hope, what do I hope for? Well, I certainly hope these trials work out the way we expect them to. Mm-hmm. And I hope that my family, my friends, our community can remain safe during that time that we're waiting to learn how to do this safely as we take care of what we need to take care of and as we take care of each other.
That leads me to my final question, which is, what advice do you have that can help us, because it is, I have to say, it's one thing to be living in Seattle in a pandemic during a Seattle August. It's another thing to be living in Seattle during, a Seattle January or February.
I guess the one thing I would say as advice, and that science, by its very nature, is a learning process. We may not get it exactly right at day one. And so I think that some of the distrust or the confusion is because people hear something 3 months ago, and if there's one thing that doesn't exactly pan out, they start to distrust the entire scientific process. But it's important to understand it's a learning process, and each day the journals are just filled with new articles that are refining what we know. And so what you hear is becoming more and more accurate. Each day you can start to depend on it more and more, both about how to protect yourself, how to protect others, and what things may not be as risky as were first thought. I guess my one piece of advice would be to listen to science. There's plenty of good information on the Hutch website, on the website of the NIH, where you can learn what's most recent, and have faith in it, because science, whether you like it or not, it's right. What we all hope for is that we can remain safe until we can all be safely together again.
Absolutely. And I really want to thank you for taking time to share this. I know it's going to be really meaningful to our community. And I do believe that there's a place where faith and science meet, because we are given this gift, and but the gift starts here and here. And thank you for all the work that you are doing to bring healing to this world, and thank you for just being a member of the Temple Beth family.
It's great to be with you, Rabbi.